Lunatic Protection.
Okay, the truth was the answer to a question where I said, you know, it's either nothing or the truth, and he was like, the truth! It's like, okay, that guy's greedy, you know, which I could have already told by the way he kept coming for answers when I said to him, listen, you know, just ask yourself what you want to do in your life and then just do it. I mean, I just went through the first season of the OC, right? And I don't know why they had to rename it in German into OC California, but who really cares? I mean, it's like, it already becomes apparent what this show is about when you watch it. And I think what I'm trying to be about is some honest emotions. And, you know, if people would see me, right, if there would be like a live channel. I don't like live recordings. I did them in the beginning because I thought they would really boost me. But it's a real drag and it's a real pain in the ass. I mean, if you like doing these things and if you like chatting with people, you know, go for it. You know, I like to seclude myself. And if I feel like people knocking onto the door of, right, this thing that you can call the mind. I mean, I can feel people knocking on and trying to push their heaviness onto me, and, you know, they just want you to say hello. Just say something nice to me, you know? Just, you know, come around the corner and smile. Yeah. Well, why would I do that for? Because you always do these things, yeah. But not on purpose. I mean, I just leave the house. I don't know what you carry around with you, but I don't know what your emotional state is. I've just been a lot in the park, like a lot in the park. And yeah, that squeak. Squeaky, squeaky. Right, squeaky, squeaky. Now, I've been spending a lot of time in the park. And however nice it sounds like to say, you know, that you've got friends, you know, what's even nicer is to accept that, you know, friends can be real dicks sometimes. You know, just because they want to see how far can I push him, right? How far can I push that guy? Well, you can push me to just not spend time with you anymore. I mean, I'm not forcing you to give me your cannabis. You just gave it to me. and then you thought it was too much. I mean, you see, I'm not having these conversations for no reason. You know why I'm having these conversations? Because we, you know, and I'm really making an effort here to try to include myself into this. We, which I don't actually see myself as a part of, but I'm just gonna say we anyway, are secluded in hearts and in our minds, and we walk around with our phones like, you know, like I can't just reach in if I want to have contact with someone, you know, like I can't just use telepathy to communicate with other people. The problem is that I really have to be, you know, each of us has to open up to these things by themselves, which means to say that there's no guarantee that just because you send out messages that others are going to understand them. And that's just a fact. And please don't listen to me when I talk, because it's none of your business what I'm saying here, okay? Right? You know, I can feel it if people try to pick up shit that I'm saying, and I really don't like it. You know, I really don't like it. If you want to talk to me, just say something and don't just piggyback on somebody else's words. Of course you could say now, well, you're walking around out in the open and you're just making these things up. But I'm not. You know, if you're trying to push your intent onto me, I can basically push it aside. You know, I can swat your intent aside. But if there's like, you know, there's like messages coming through, you know, do this, do that. You know, why don't you? Right? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You know, why don't you go and get a chicken? Well, I just had a steak. You know, I don't even know why. I just had a steak. You know, and I feel like, I don't know, it's giving me teeth. You know, I'm becoming more vicious even than I used to be already. You know, before I realized how vicious I can be. You know, I never knew how vicious I could be until I started becoming vicious. And, you know, then it felt good being vicious, and then you realized, wait a second. I'm not quite sure, you know, is this really me, or are people making me vicious? And it had nothing to do with eating meat or not. I mean, at the moment I feel like I literally need to eat meat. And maybe it's actually somebody else's greed for meat. You know, I'm not quite sure. Or maybe because I've been denying myself to eat meat for so long, and now it's just coming right back. You know, it's just flooding over me like, you know, the flood of meat that it is. And yeah, I just spend an entire day basically inside saying nothing. And, you know, once that piles up, it was actually more than a day. You know, you're like about to explode, and you just have to make sure that you explode into the right thing. So the right thing at the moment seems to be, and that makes me angry. It's not just that makes me angry, it's just that there are feelings of anger, and I don't give a shit what you think. Please just open your door and go inside, right? Your thoughts are meaningless to me. And that's just a valid opinion to have. I don't give a crap what you think. Because if you look at me and you think blah blah blah, then I think whatever, right? I mean, that's just a valid point. I don't care that you think that this camera is a status symbol. Because what does it mean? Well, status, you know, in terms of happiness. Oh God, another one who thinks he knows what he's doing. Yeah, I mean, you're obese. Sorry, but that's just the truth. It's right in your face. You're obese. What kind of example do you set? Well, I don't know how to transmute energy. Well, I can see that, you know. You know, it's like failure, check. Sorry. I mean, that sounds really awful. But that's just how truth can be. I mean, I can tell you really nice, right? I mean, you could say to Julie Cooper, you're a real bee. Yeah, that's just a bitch. I mean, that's a female dog, right? We just happen to think that bitches are bitches. You know, like female dogs are sluts, which makes no sense. You know, why would you use the word? Because, I mean, wolves have kind of packs, which is basically a family. And not everybody does it with everyone, I assume, you know. But I just happen to be in that position that everybody around me just thinks of one thing, you know. They go to a self-realization seminar. And while this should be about, you know, opening up to yourself, connecting with yourself, you know, like learning to love yourself and then becoming a better person, all these people do is just get laid. And then at these self-help seminars, they even hand out the condoms. They even hand out the condoms. It's like, yeah, and that's, you know, these people are called irgendwie anders. They literally promote cheating. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, what is cheating? I mean, if you cheat in your mind, well, there's a difference. I can have violent thoughts, you know, like even images, like even plan it to the last detail. But then the question is, wait, am I actually gonna do it? Or am I not going to do it? And then the answer is, well, that's still choice, right? You know, just because you have thoughts doesn't mean you need to do anything about them. What it means is that there are thoughts, and the question is, why are you allowing these thoughts to happen? And so, I mean, messages are just flooding in. And I'm just trying to hold myself together and just figure out how to do what I'm here to do, which is work hard, which is turn all these artworks. I mean, I just made 28, 30, let it be possibly even more than that, artworks. And the amount of stuff that I can produce, I mean, I can just sit down. Okay, I do have to smoke for this, and apparently with tobacco, which is weird. Like, I don't really like the taste, but it's alright. And then I sit down, you know, it slows me down, okay? You know, if I smoke pure cannabis, it's just like gonna shoot me up. And I'm not even smoking cannabis, you know, this is not advertisement. This is just saying I have no idea what HHC is supposed to be, but it feels like I'm smoking LSD. And I can just buy it for free, no, not for free, legally in a shop that's supposed to sell CBD oil. And this stuff makes me higher than any of the cannabis that I've found so far. And I'm not quite sure, I just don't want to leave my apartment at the moment for the simple reason it's a mess and I still feel my ankle, right? There's a lot of insecurity, which means to me, this is the time to walk and not the time to play a lot of frisbee in parks. Because the amount of vicious, you know, feedback I've been getting in this specific park has been a bit too much for me. You know, it's like somebody, you know, we don't talk about murder here. I mean, okay, let that just ring your bells for a second. Sometimes I meet people who are so angry, everything they say is like a dagger in your heart, all right? That's what you have to understand. That what it means, like, to feel good about yourself and then spend time with other people, because other people may not feel good about themselves and they may want you to carry their hopes for a better life. The problem is when you carry the hopes of other people, then they start clinging and then they try to control you because they think, wait a second, what's the guarantee that he's gonna take me with him? You know, because I've been saying a lot of weird things and I've been seeing a lot of weird stuff, including maybe, you know, sometimes I see how I would strangle him. And then the question is, well, would I give in to being strangled? You know, that's a valid question. Because just because you have a vision of strangling someone doesn't mean you could actually do it. I mean, that's just the fact. Plus, I would probably, you know, say to you, you know, just, you know, maybe strangle your snake for a bit. You know, if you're really frustrated, you know, just jerk off. Just let it go all out, you know, and focus on the hate that you're feeling. And then see it washing down the drain, and then you realize, well, it ultimately was just energy. And I really hope, you know, I'm just gonna say, you know, I really hope that YouTube will allow me to keep producing this kind of content, because, you know, what would I do with my life? You know, I could pressure you with that, you know, it's like being in a relationship. It's like that Oliver kid in the OC did it. I mean, I'm just watching this to analyze patterns of speech, you know, mindsets, because whatever the OC is, it's very well researched. Like, the characters are very well designed, which gives me a good perception of how it may be. Of course, it's always a distortion. I mean, living there would be different, but the image that's being drawn is still, you know, okay, the story writing is a bit shit. I mean, I'm just saying a bit shit. It's a bit shit. I'm just saying that it's a bit shit. I mean, it's just a bit weird. You know, it could be a bit better, but I enjoy being offline. Which is why now I made a choice to, instead of going to the mall, to use their internet to top up my internet, so that I can post images on Instagram at home. You know, I made a conscious choice to go to the supermarket. I don't know. I thought I wanted to buy a crate of beer, and I thought I wanted to, well, what else would I want to do? Buy a chicken. You know, I've really grown teeth again. I think I used to have teeth. You know, I'm like, I always felt a bit like Naruto. I have like this feeling of having canines. And I mean, there was a reason that I did study lynx and then vervets. I mean, I ate a lot of wild meat. I mean, what's wild? Impala, it's wild. I think, is that Melampus? Yeah, supposedly. You know, oh yeah, you know, that's what Ramdas means. You know, I don't really like quoting other people too much, simply because, you know, I'm always trying to draw out of my own bag of experiences. You know, and in this stage there's no telling, okay, so there's this cheeky little me, this cocky little guy who thinks, you know, I'm the best guy there is and everybody's gonna watch this. And then there's this other guy, you know, what separates me from the crowd? I mean, I just know how to talk freely in front of a camera and let go into the emotion that also comes with talking, and to simply let go into, I don't know. You see, there's still a lot of insecurity, which brings me to Caleb Nickel. Okay, his wife died. Let's just act like these characters are real, like real life people. Okay, his wife died at some point, and then he had some kind of girlfriends, and then he met Julie Cooper, which is like a lioness, and he simply said, you know, I'm gonna have you, yeah? And then he overexerted himself, bought this giant mansion, you know, just to say to her, you know, it's you that I want. But the question remains, what's the point? I mean, she doesn't care about you. She just wants to look good and live in a fancy house. So even if she would sleep with you, the sex would still be empty. Because you'd know if you wouldn't have the money, she just wouldn't be with you. And then you can ask yourself the question, first of all, who's Caleb Nickel? I mean, in all of this, like including yourself, who is that guy, right? I mean, who is he to you when you remember watching the show or when you would watch it again? You know, I'm just trying to take you off the streets so that you learn how to spend time with yourself. So you could just sit there, you know, just one night, start watching the OC instead of getting drunk somewhere else in the pub. Just be there alone or with someone else, and then just play Who Am I, right? It's like that song from Chris Webby, you know. I feel like I'm, you know, I feel like I'm becoming like a hard-on fan. I mean, seriously. I mean, I thought about meeting that guy, you know, like being with him and seeing what he does, you know, like really sucking him in, because, you know, his music doesn't feel enough anymore, you know. And maybe that's how you feel about me, and maybe that's exactly the opposite you feel about me. Maybe while you're watching this, you don't think, oh wow, you know, look at his lips, you know, I'd like to kiss him, or oh wow, I'd like to massage his pelvis, you know, and then like really get in there, you know. Maybe that's what you think, or you think, what the heck? I mean, that guy's so full of himself. I mean, who would ever touch that? Yeah, you just haven't seen me yet. I mean, I'm just completely in my own zone. I mean, I'm walking here and I can feel if people jab me with their thoughts and their projection. I can feel it. And once you know how to feel it and how to sense these things, well, what can you do about it? Well, I suggest one of the basically only things you can do about this is learn how to set boundaries. Damn it. You know, I have no way to clean my nose. You know, how do you learn to set boundaries? You simply say no. And I mean, Julie was, I mean, from the looks of it, Caleb was looking like, you know, actually he was doing fine. And suddenly, like, a woman like Julie comes in his life because she doesn't even know what she's doing there. I mean, first she had Jimmy, and that went wrong. And she could have, you know, taken the road of love, right? I mean, she could have said, I choose family over money. You know, we're gonna figure it out somewhere else. And then she could have connected with her daughter, but she wasn't trying to do that at all. She just wanted to, you know, whitewash herself because she thinks where she's coming from is a terrible place, but everybody knows that she's coming from there. And she acts like she's ashamed of it, but that's what gives her also her spunk. I mean, what's the point of hiding it? Just be open about where you come from and show people, you know, hey, everybody can be different. You know, introduce them to your way of life. And, you know, but not everyone, surely. I mean, this is part of my way of life, right? This is my way of life. And this is what I'm doing. And when you're thinking about, I mean, when Marissa was blackmailed, I mean, come on, she just acts like, oh, I don't want to do it because of my daddy. But, I mean, if you ever watched the show, we all saw how ashamed she felt when she invited people into her dad's place. So for her, that's actually like, oh wow, you know, I'm finally getting what I want. Because that's all she cares about. You know, I want something. You know, all these women's like hungry wolf. You know, I don't even want to say wolves because this is just stupid. I mean, okay, it's nature, okay? Let's never forget that that's nature, right? The stronger survives, but somebody who looks weak at first, you know, may still become, you know, whatever, the swan or something, which makes the movie The Black Swan complete bullshit. I mean, it was just ridiculous to see these women rolling around on the ground in these tutus. I can't help it. I mean, there is anger. I can certainly agree on that. I mean, there certainly is anger. And I had a different idea, you know. I would like my life to be different at the moment, you know, already for a long time. I mean, this moment is just stretching out where I just think, I mean, there should be more to life. And that's actually a question I've been hiding from because, I mean, that can't be it. Me just sitting around making art? What the fuck? I mean, I can keep myself above water for sure by going to the shops, you know, buying alcohol and meat just to kind of feel happy and then smoke cannabis. But shouldn't there be something else? I mean, shouldn't there be something else in my life than, you know, doing stuff like this? I mean, I just don't get it. What's the point of electric bikes? So I can still be fat and cycle? I mean, is that the point of electric bikes? Because that's the message I'm getting. You know, I can be fat and cycle anyway. Only it's not cycling. Because cycling actually involves putting in some energy. Okay, you are, right? That's the amount of energy you can put in. The rest you just buy with money. Because that's where all your energy is going, into money. You know, and I just come from a month of basically, I had 1 week of money and then I spend it all. And that explains now why I feel so, you know, empty to a certain degree, because I've emptied myself into art. You don't know what that means. I mean, I drew just like, I made 30 sketches or something, you know, I haven't counted them. I stopped at something above 20. And every time I sit down and I smoke, you know, more comes out. And I think, who's supposed to do all that? Well, and then the answer is, well, you, of course. I mean, you're the best. I mean, just do it. And you think, what? You know, I'm going to talk to you later about this. Okay, I did not buy once more an entire crate of beer, and there's a reason. I did buy a frozen chicken. The cheapest one I could find is like €5 for a life. Sick. That's what I call this. Sick. You know, going shopping, sick, you know. People I meet in the shops, sick. People that I see driving around in cars, sick. You know, they're all sick. You know, it's like, where does the sickness start? If you start replacing things that you, like desires you have, with things from the outside, which is basically what this entire society is being built on, that you say, I have a need, you know, I have this need to be alive, and then you are being restricted into sitting at home and sitting behind desks and just only doing what people tell you to do, and then you realize, okay, you know, that's the deal apparently, and everybody's playing along. But the truth is that really the deal? Or is that just what you're making out of it? Because, you know, it doesn't really have to be your deal. I mean, it's the deal other people made, and you just thought, you know, I have to do something, so why not copy them? Until you realized that there was a reason why they never, you know, it never really looked very appealing to do any of this. The question is, why are we still doing it? Right? Why does Caleb Nickel want to marry Julie Cooper? And what does he represent? You know, I just keep asking this question because I still don't know. Because of course it's a fabrication. I mean, he's an actor. He was being given a script. And you could ask yourself, why was this actor being picked for this role? Like this role specifically? Yeah, because he's tall and he's white or Caucasian or whatever, and he looks like he could fit the profile. You just stuff him in a suit and he'll do the job. He'll represent, you know, one of Orange County's richest men. And sure, I mean, as the story continues, everything starts to get more complex. And then you've got the daughter that says, you know, I don't want to look happy when I walk here, and now I'm going to go there, because if, you know, everybody's going there, you know, I'm just gonna go somewhere else. You know, that's just how I do things. Not because You know, you pick the road less traveled by. And there are too many people. If I work in a supermarket, you know, I couldn't hear myself. And it's important that I hear myself. Because if I can't hear myself, you know, I can basically learn to do that. You know, maybe being a supermarket employee is your job. I mean, it's the best thing in the world for you. You actually love it. But because you think you should hate it, you feel like, you know, you can't allow yourself to like such a job. And then there's, of course, all these insecurities. I mean, how long are these jobs still going to be available for the taking? Because, you know, that's also something you have to understand. I mean, you work this job because you made the choice. You could have done other things. You know, if you thought, you know, I think I still want to study, well, there's always a way if you want to. And I think I just have to get used to people trying to listen in on me. Listen, if I would be in a different city at the moment, you know, there wouldn't be a chance of people not running around in my mind trying to figure out who I was or something. You know, I mean, my outfit is basically complete. If I walk, it's basically complete. I mean, I just walked to the supermarket and I just bought, I brought back some bottles. And a girl came and she said, "Do you speak English?" Well, maybe she just wanted a reason to talk to me, you know, I don't know. But she asked me if I need shoes and I was like, no. So I mean, if people start thinking you're actually a homeless person, I think you've made it. I mean, that's like sad puppy face all the way. And that's basically, you know, I'm not saying I'm unhappy, but I'm also not saying I'm happy. I'm just saying it's a lot to deal with. You know, there are days where I think nice, and there are days where I think not so nice. And then I have not so nice days where basically everyone just annoys me because, you know, especially these days where somebody feels something is off, right? It's like that situation where Ryan walks in on the Coens talking about Teresa just having done whatever, you know, and he immediately realizing, what are you guys talking about? You know? Yeah, and that's probably when he starts to poke. Which is why if you have conversations like this, you should have them in the privacy of your bedroom, right? So that he can't pick up on the vibe of, hey, somebody's just been talking about me. And I don't know, right? I mean, it's weird. Sorry, what now? Me shoes? Do I look like a homeless person? I mean, somebody asked me once if he, you know, something was there and he said, do you need help? I was like, do I look like I need help? I mean, I don't look like a child. I'm not old, you know. So why are you asking me? Because maybe it's part of your job, right? Right, it's just part of your job. You just had to be informed that nothing's gonna happen. And that's then all there is to it. You can't just help it. So I don't want to record this. It's something I have said fairly often. I record this because I feel like that's what I should do now, right? Because there's nobody. My home is a mess. No, at least to my standards, which are not that high. I mean, it's energetically all right, but it's filling up with stuff. And I think the real reason I bought the chicken is still because, you know, there's no woman to nibble on, right? So you just get the chicken. You know, what's the next best thing to a warm hug? You know, it's like a chicken and maybe a beer and a Coke. Because I don't know, produced 30 sketches or drawings, and you still have to fill that with life. At the moment, I really have to fill myself with something, and as long as I record myself, you know, that's the feeling that I carry around with myself. As long as I just continue to produce, you know, to just keep going, at least somehow I feel like there's a chance of this actually happening, right? I mean, the chances, they look super slim, so I am naturally being squeezed through the tightest hole that you can imagine. And so when I walk around, it's basically like, you know, I was once in Tanzania and we were driving around, kind of taxi. I think we were going to the Raha or something. Raha. It doesn't matter. It was a national park in Tanzania somewhere. I don't know really where anymore. I went to two and I completely forgot about them because my mind's a mess at the moment. I mean, I'm just reorganizing myself in myself. You know, I'm evaluating choices. I'm asking myself why tobacco. I'm asking myself why smoke at all. But every time I stop, I feel like, might as well continue because life's just boring. I mean, there's a lot to deal with, but just in the real things happening, you know, that I can actually see, it's just nothing. I mean, I can have sex happening in my mind, but I think we all know that it's a completely different thing for sex really happening, because if sex is really happening, then you may have a child pretty soon. And I actually have to say no to that. I don't know. You know, as nice as I like, you know, I like children, don't get me wrong. But I don't think I'm gonna have a lot of time to play, right? I mean, children should play. Adults should have played already, which we all have. We just get stuck on still playing. You know, I'm not playing anymore. You know, I'm trying to live. And, you know, that's a challenge because everybody lives this, you know, let's just get to New Year's Eve, you know, so that we can scratch another year off the list. And, you know, basically their years are sort of empty. You know, they kind of just do the same things over and over again. And then sure, a guy like me who comes into the supermarket and wears clothes that, you know, like the ones I wear, and have no shoes and a beard and a smirk, and, you know, maybe says something and you just think, oh wow, he could take me out of my misery. You know, that's basically Teresa and Ryan, right? I mean, the only reason Teresa went to see Ryan, you know, he thought, oh, she's coming for me. No, she isn't. She's coming to settle down and be comfortable. And you ain't gonna give it to her. Because you never actually wanted it. You still let it happen. And then you thought, wow, she was pregnant, but she wasn't. And it makes no sense. And that's why I talk about these things, because nothing makes sense. But everybody acts like they do. You know, everybody acts like things make sense, but they don't. Nothing makes sense. I mean, I have done so many things where you would say that makes no sense. Well, guess what? I'm still here, right? And you can't just lump it off onto everyone else because, you know, nobody's forced to help me. Do you get it? Nobody's forced. I've never forced anyone to help me. I mean, do you get that? I've never forced anyone to help me. All I do is just say what I feel, and somehow some people started to think, maybe he needs an apartment because for some reason he's reluctant to stop. And then you say, well, that's a valid point. That's a valid point, you know, and that's mint. You know, that's something I'm really craving for. And they have a whole garden full of it and they do nothing with it. And I get it. I mean, I was thinking about going around collecting apples because they're just rotting on the ground. Where you could say, well, that's giving, you know, that's giving the... You see, there's people walking around here and they think they're the best guy in the world. You know, they wear like suits and then they go to their car and then they drive around. And then they see someone like me. I'm just gonna be open about these things. And then you walk around and you ride your, let's say, in bare feet. And you talk and you have a camera and somebody walks by and, you know, you get this kind of whiff of, you know, what a douchebag. And then you think, well, you don't even know me, man. Like, where's the douchebag coming from? Because you don't know me. You know, I'm just trying to keep my head light. I mean, not like lightheaded, not thinking about anything, you know, but if I draw an image and I feel anything, right, you start drawing a sketch, you put down the pencil and then you just start with your first line. And then, you know, you add more lines and then you just swirl it around and then suddenly there's a face and you think, wait, that looks shit. You know, judgment. You know, who are you to judge? You know, you don't make art just for yourself, which is why I see I see that I am beneficial to society because I somehow, you know, I'm being basically forced to, okay, to channel feelings of other people. You know, I don't have a lot of problems, but people have. And so I've been freed, right? I came here as this speck of light and people just kept giving me their shit. Like, oh, you want this? Ah, here's a bit more shit for you. You know, oh, take this also, you know. What is shit? Well, it is basically, you know, let's talk about, you know, have you ever heard about a tax statement? You know, there are areas which I don't really like. But I also don't want to get scared, you know, all the time. Okay, so what's shit? I mean, it's a shit statement. It's an emotional statement. You know, if you talk to me and I feel like you're taking a piss on me, well then question why. Can be either my insecurity or your assholishness. You know, like, you think you're super good and much, much better than I am. And that's the kind of attitude you adopted to keep yourself from thinking, you know, that you could have done better somewhere along the road. Which we all could have. You know, let's face it. We all could have made better decisions at some point. We all could have done better choices at some point, but we didn't. Just gonna be quiet. So anyway, you know, everybody just tries to be cool, right? Everybody just wants to be, you know, the sickest kid, the coolest guy, the baddest motherfucker. You know, he wants to have had the most sex. He wants to have had, you know, the prettiest girlfriend. He wants to have had the, I don't know, just the fanciest car, the flashiest car, you know, or whatever just he thinks he likes. I already thought there was something fishy going on here. You know, there are just like these gangs. And the question is, can I openly, you know, I can walk like this and I look less desirable, you know, because if I would always show that I have a camera to carry around. And people may think there's something to get from this guy. They don't even know what. You know, they just get excited for whatever reason, which is why if you are a bit like me and for some reason weird things happen whenever you're around, you know, suddenly things get out of hand, or you know, you just begin to channel energy, well, all I can say to you is the following: we'll learn to deal with it. I make different choices all the time. You know, I don't live all the time in fear, but I'm also not completely free of it. You know, I have these visions, you know, if you go there, people are going to beat you up, and then you go there, nothing happens. Well, how should I know? I mean, maybe if I go there next time, they're going to beat me up. Well, how many times are you going to try before they're really going to beat you up? Because, you know, you don't know what these kids have been smoking. You don't know what they have been drinking or snorting. I mean, people do things you know nothing about. And then they walk around in this kind of place where they think everybody's an enemy, or I feel really powerful. And then how are you gonna deal with this? Well, who's to say? You just have to deal with it. I mean, I'm sometimes so, you know, pregnant with opinions about, you know, how life is and how it should be, that I forget to see what already is there. But then I also realize, yeah, well, but what is there? You know, it's like I could have made a million different choices today, and I choose to do what I'm doing. And if you didn't have any ideas, then maybe you weren't desperate enough. Because I really felt like I could do something else with my life. I just felt like I could do something else with my life. And then you watch videos that are super great and where I really loved making them. But what always comes back, and I've never once managed to get rid of it, is this feeling of you just went through a high, now deal with the low. You know, and I seem to manage at least a spittle. You know, I just, you know, the last days I just realized, okay, prepare yourself for the low vibes also. Shitstorm, you know, bad reputations, people just hating you for no reason because they just project their own feelings onto you. They don't even see who you are. I mean, that's how I feel all the time. And that's basically everyone. I mean, there are very few occasions where I meet people where I think he likes what he's doing. And I don't like what I'm doing every day. I mean, I like what I'm doing every day. You know, at some point, you know, because I don't restrict myself to simply, you know, saying, you know, I just like this or I just like that. You know, now for instance, you feel like I could sit down here for a second and just eat something or drink something. You know, I could go for a hike, or I could just stay inside and try to be comfortable. And then you think, well, I just escaped comfort to fill myself with more things that are supposed to give me comfort, such as, you know, stupid beverages like Coke or Sprite or beer, or I bought a chicken. You know, what is this chicken really going to change? Well, it's just going to help me to get past the next day. And that's basically all there is to it. I mean, that's the mentality of my entire life, you know, just manage till tomorrow, right? If you're still alive tomorrow, you know, just keep on going. You know, that's basically what I'm facing. Because, I mean, people tend to forget who you are. And I tend to forget who I am if I never show myself to people and I never spend time with people. And there's one thing of knowing it, and then there's one thing of saying it, and then there's one thing of knowing it and saying it and realizing that no words are ever going to really express what you're talking about unless you know it already. You know, that's the really tough thing. That you don't know what I'm talking about unless, you know what I'm talking about. And then what are we talking about, you know? But if I manage to talk long enough about the feelings or hold the feeling that I'm feeling when I'm doing what I like, which is weirdly enough opening up to the camera or to the microphone in general, then you may understand, okay, apparently he found it for himself, so I don't have to try to take it away from him anymore. So I don't care who you meet, and I don't care what these people do, because I really don't care what other people are doing anymore. You work in a supermarket because that's where you see yourself, because maybe you simply really don't have the time to look outside of the bubble, because your bubble is very narrow and you just fit into it too tightly. And then there's of course other people's bubbles that interconnect with yours, and it's like really like whatever the morphogenetic field is, it's just like one giant bubble. And then questions start to arise and you think, wait, is this guy trying to pop my bubble? You think, well, I sure am trying, but the thing is, you know, let's take Teresa's bubble. What's Teresa's bubble? Well, she tried to make it bigger, but it just ain't working. Well, she liked Ryan, and you know, I mean, just from the story, you just know she doesn't really care about Ryan. She just wants someone to take care of her. She never really wanted Eddie. So you could say, you know, if we see this story, you know, because it's actually in certain ways it's good story writing. You know, the details, you know, okay. But what's the point? Okay. You know, Ryan is this kind of like this savior, holy child. I mean, he helps Seth, you know, to get with girls, and finally he feels like alive and all that kind of stuff. And then what else is there? Yeah, that's just that he certainly has some kind of presence and he knows how to stand up for others, but he's also like seems unstable. But I mean, he's just if he's your friend, I mean, he's gonna go to great length. But at the same time, what you also have to see is, you know, he's also just a crook. I mean, just like everyone else. I mean, he just plays nice so he can be with the Coens, and the Coens have to then show him, you know, that they really mean business, you know. So apparently the Coens needed Ryan for Seth. You know, that's probably why Sandy even thought about it. You know, this is like, what? I mean, everybody's kind of selfish. You can't just look at the story and act like, you know, Sandy is just a super nice guy, and, you know, who's the villain, who's not. You know, everybody plays their parts. Who's really evil? You know, because you cannot tell me that you aren't enjoying watching YouTube videos to some degree, or movies, or eating, you know, I don't know, whatever you're eating, you know, or watching whatever you're watching, or doing whatever you're watching. It's all part of society, and that's where we always say, you know, it's evil. But what's really evil? I mean, there's nothing that's really evil. I mean, I haven't found anyone where I would say, yeah, this person is purely good. And I haven't found anyone where I could say this person is purely evil. You know, you just find people and they either try to act like nice or they try to act like villains. And everybody seems to agree, you know, okay, if Hollywood's nice, then we must be the villains. Yeah, so, you know, that's a fabrication, because everybody knows that nobody's nice and nobody's really a villain. So even the minute, you know, I can see something, you know, I was the kid who cried when they shot Godzilla in the 2000 and whatever movie. I think I was 12. We had to go there with a parent or something. You know, I was the kid that cried when they shot Godzilla on the bridge. I was the kid that cried, you know, when Leslie died. I never cried for humans. You know, I have more compassion with animals sometimes. Not really. You know, I'm not a very compassionate child. I mean, I'm very distanced emotionally, and people seem to have a problem with that. I can literally imitate emotions, because to me, emotions are, you know, raw stuff. Emotions to me are, you know, it's just energy. So I can sit around crying and moping about my life and how much I hate it, or I just pick myself up, go to the damn shops, just buy a couple of beer, and then I walk back. Then I sit there and I just eat it, and tomorrow, you know, I'm just gonna pick myself up again. But maybe I just need a couple of days to lay low. You know, it's not gonna be my entire life, which is why I'm glad I didn't buy a whole crate. Plus, I also need the energy, possibly, of the chicken to just motivate myself enough to say, hey, later I'm gonna have chicken. And so I can clean before, and that's nice.